Well, here we are back on Saturday again with Woodworking with Wes. I have a project I want to do today, but we're going to attack it a little differently. I have some leftover 2x4s and a 2x6 from a cart that I built. I want to build a little patio bench for my backyard. I don't really have a plan. I have an idea, and I've looked at some other benches that I like, and I've built some benches in the past, and I'm going to borrow from those too. But what we're going to do today is we're going to wing it, and we're just going to kind of see what we end up with at the end of it. I got some ideas. We'll work on the ideas, but we're going to kind of see how it goes. To get started, there's some measurements that we do have to deal with. A standard bench or chair is usually 18 inches off the ground. 17, 18 inches, we're good. I've got enough wood here. I want to make a bench that's about 40 inches long, 12 inches wide, and I'm going to go that 18 inches deep. So I'm going to chunk up a bunch of wood here right now and kind of see where that takes me with my wood and with the measurements that I do have to have in order to have the bench come out right. Okay, I've spent the last few minutes just milling my wood. Now, let's bring you up to date. What I did is these are 2x4s, so they were 1.5 by 3.5. This was a 2x6, so 1.5 by 5.5. What I did is I milled everything down to 1 1/4 net. So that gave me a nice clean board to start off with. And then I ripped it to, this is 5 inches wide. These are 3 1/8 inches wide. That ripped off all of the mill ends that I like to get rid of. This is some of the stuff that I have left over, and I've decided this is going to be my top. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have my 5-inch piece in the center, my 2 3 1/8 pieces to the side, and I'm going to have a 1/4 inch gap in between here. And so my top will kind of look like this. Like I say, we're just kind of designing as we go. I'm thinking that that will allow me to have some room for expansion and contraction. And also, if it rains on my bench out in the backyard, this will allow the water to go through and not puddle on top of my bench. Now, I decided what I'm going to do as far as the ends. I'm going to make a finger joint type end to my bench. So I'm going to start off, I'm going to make me a bench that has, this is too wide, it's going to be more like this wide. And I'm going to create a finger joint top to it, and I'm going to cut little fingers on this pieces here so that my end of my bench, so this is the leg, this is the top, will fit together in a finger joint configuration like that. Now it's not going to be a lot, it's going to be, I think what I'm going to do is just notch like here and just have a couple of finger joints, but it'll give a finger joint kind of a approach to the way this is joined together. I also had one piece of 3/4 inch pine laying around, and I'm going to use it to make some skirts and some support for the top, down the sides, across, anyway, support pieces. I'll show you that when we get to that part too. Next thing I've got to do is make the legs and make the finger joints. I forgot to add that I'm almost 12 inches wide here, and I'm going to bring in my end pieces. I'm going to bring them in a 1/2 inch so that there's a little lip on the outside of my bench. My end will not be quite as wide as my top will be. I'm a little concerned that that might give me a little bit of a tipping action. I haven't figured out how to fix that yet. Let me work on an end. I'm going to have you come back. I'm going to have one end all put together, and then I'm going to talk about how I put it together in order to solve what I'm thinking might be an issue about tipping. We're going to get that fixed. Okay, this is what I came up with for the outside legs to our table. Let me show you what I did. I took 2 pieces here. Now I'm going to put this together, so I'm going to show you what I've done. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pieces to make it. And then this is going to be my finger joint top here. What I wanted to do was to make sure that I was wide enough at the bottom that I didn't end up having a tipping action with the top on here. So these little feet right here give me a little more stability. Once I get this all sanded out, now that I'm all glued together, and this is just glued together, once I get this all sanded out, I'm going to take a 1/4 inch round over and go around all the edges and soften it up. But let's put one together here and show you how I did it. This is my center block. It's 7 inches high, 5 inches wide. Here are my legs. They are 3 inches wide and 18 inches high. I'm going to put it together just like that. That's how I started. I glued that together like that. Glued this joint right here and clamped it. This is the thickness, this notch here is the height of the thickness of my wood. This is a piece we're going to use, but I just wanted to show you. This is the height of the thickness of our wood. So when we get ready to put our top on there, that will create the finger joint effect that I was thinking that I wanted. These are the little blocks that I made for the outside edges to create the stability that I was after. I created those by clamping a block to my box sled and created the angle by putting the piece of wood in there against the block and holding it at an angle. This is the same piece, only I just cut it off so that it gave a little bit of a decoration to the inside and not so square. And so that's how we'll clamp that up. And it's all just glued together. So let's start off and let's put one together so you can see it. All right. Now, one of the things you want to do is kind of sand your inside edges, take off any of the saw feathers. I call them feathers, the little burrs that come from saw. I'm going to put my glasses on so I can see. And then make sure you got plenty of glue. We don't want a lot of squeeze out, but we do want to have the surface covered very good because this is all that is holding it is the glue. Okay, like that. All right. I'm going to move it down here so I can clamp on it real good. Now I have just 2 pieces of scrap wood here. I'm putting it here so that I can make sure that I'm smooth or flush across the top of my little finger joint configuration there. And then we're just going to put on these clamps, and as I tighten, I'll make sure that I maintain that flush bottom there to my finger joint. Tighten a little bit more. And we're doing good, we're doing good. Tighten a little bit more, tighten a little bit more. Okay, we're still doing good, we're still doing good. We're going to flip it over and give one more clamp to this side here. And now we'll let that dry. Also want to make sure we're flush this way too. All right, we're doing good there. Let's go back and make sure we're smooth, smooth. All right, we'll tighten all of our clamps down good now. All right, and then while that's drying, I'm going to take my nail gun and I'm going to take my little support blocks. I'm going to call these the support blocks. This is what gives the foot of my leg a little more stability. I don't want this to be top heavy and unstable as it sits on the ground. I have grandkids that are going to sit on this. I don't want my grandkids to fall over. So, all right, nice and flush on the bottom, flush on both sides. 2 nails. Okay, we're good. We're going to do the same thing to this side. Again, sanding off the little feathers. I wonder if there's an actual word for that little burr that the saw creates. I don't know that feather is the right word, but that's what I've always called them, is feathers. If anybody knows that there's a correct term, let me know. I'd hate to have to learn new terminology after all these years, but maybe I should. Okay, now you can begin to see how that creates that wider bottom on our leg to give that extra stability. Okay. And then these little spacer blocks here, these little decorative blocks, I should say. They're not a spacer block, these little decorative blocks. I'm going to change out my nail gun for my 23 gauge headless pin gun. And we're just going to put a little bit of glue on there. And slide that in there and pull it up tight into that corner. And forgive my arm being in the way. More glue. Just pull that up good and tight. I'm going to flip it over and give it one more little pin from this side. Okay. Now we'll let that one dry. And we'll sand those two out, and then we'll start working on the top. Our glue is now dry on the second leg that we glued together. We'll take that out of clamps, and you can see that the two legs now look just like one another. We'll go ahead and sand that out in just a minute, and I'm going to have you watch me sand that and route it. We took a trim router with a 1/4 inch round over bit, and we went all the way around the edges on inside and out on both sides after we had sanded it, so that our leg now is nice and smooth on both sides and sanded and ready to go. And so we'll take this leg now to that point. While this was also drying, I want to show you this piece right here. This goes, let me show you how it connects to the legs. This is basically the support underneath the top of our bench. It's just out of 3/4 inch pine, 3.5, 3.5. It's 10.5 inches wide. These little stretchers here are made so that we can screw through to the underneath side of those. But let me show you how it goes on. I'll lay my side piece down here, and it will fit underneath like this. It will be flush with our finger joint. Remember, these little notches are going to create a finger joint effect in the corner of our bench. So this piece fits underneath where those finger joint notches are, like that. And it will tie the two legs together. I'll turn it around like this so you can see how it's going to fit. We'll use the pocket screws to screw it there. We'll center it. And once we get that level on, once we get this piece on both legs, then all we have to do is install the top. And it will sit like this, like that. and then our top boards will lay across the top of that, creating our finger joint effect on the end, but it will give lots of support for our boards that create the seat to our bench and make it very strong and very stable. With our legs all done and sanded, we're now ready to install the support piece that we just made. So let's decide what's inside and what's out. That's inside. Then we'll take this piece right here. And like we say, we're going to put the top of it flush with our finger joint blocks that we made. And then we're going to turn it around like this. We're just going to be using pocket screws, and we're going to anchor this on. Okay, we're going to put one on there and then make sure that we're right where we need to be. We are right where we need to be. And now we'll go around and we'll put pocket screws in all of the pockets that we've already drilled. The pocket screw is with a flat head is designed to pull the board into the board you're screwing into. So your pocket acts as a guide and a hold to the screw that you're putting in. And it really makes a strong joint. And where we're tying this, now we have a really, really strong joint there. And then we'll do the turn it over, and we'll do the exact same thing to the other side. Okay, you can see how strong and how sturdy our little bench is. Our top pieces are going to be cut to fit and create our finger joint effect. Just like that. And so what we're going to do is we're going to start with the middle piece. Now, one of the things we need to do, now we're all together, we can measure the length of it. It's 41 inches long. And that's kind of what I had figured we would end up with, is 41, and so actually my measurement is correct. We're going to cut all three of these boards to 41 inches long. And then we're going to notch to fit around in order to create our finger joint look. We're now getting ready to create our finger joint effect. What we're going to do is take a notch out of the center of this board on both ends that corresponds with this piece that's standing up. We're going to make sure that we're centered, so we'll measure this and make sure that our cut is centered. It's going to be the same depth into this board as the thickness of our board that's standing up, and it'll fit over it like that on both ends. So we'll do the math and mark that off and cut that. Our piece that's standing up is 3 1/8 inches wide. Our board is 5 1/8 inch wide. So we're going to have a 1-inch piece here, a 1-inch piece here, and we're going to remove this piece. This piece is 3 1/8 by 1 1/4, which is exactly the size that is standing up. And so this will fit down, and that automatically centers this board. We'll go ahead and take our notch out, and then we'll sand it before we install it. Well, we have the top boards all ready to go. Let's put a dry fit on them and see how they fit and see if we're where we want to be. Oh, that's good. That looks good. And then here's our side piece over here, like that. And then this one just like this. All right. And that's what the bench is going to look like on the top. Okay, I'm going to take these pieces back off. I'm going to sand them and put a round over of 1/4 inch like I did on the rest of the legs. I'm going to put a round over on the edge of my boards, and then we're going to glue them in and then give it a final sand. Well, there we are. What do you think of our cute little garden bench? I think it turned out really nice. Haven't decided what I'm going to put on as a finish yet, but we'll figure that out too. This has been one of those deals where you kind of learn as you go. I even learned a few things as I went along. That's what we like about Saturdays. We learn things. And we'll learn something new next time on Woodworking with Wes.